Silver attempts to enact Flint's plan to trade the gold for Nassau, against his better judgment. And that puts him in an interesting position between Madi on one side and Billy on the other. And remember how all of this is really dependent upon Woods agreeing to this entire plan? Yeah, guess which way that goes. It's the STARZ original series, Black Sails, Season 4, Episode 5, 33. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Black Sails. So, of course, we are sailing into spoiler territory. This is your warning. Alright, so we got a good episode this week. A lot of stuff happening, a lot of expecting to go one way, and we are going another. This show does not disappoint. We have really Silver struggling to enact Flint's plan, sort of against his better judgment, and dealing with the difficulties and intricacies associated with that. Associated with that. And on the other side, we have Woods processing Eleanor's deal and deciding for himself what is he willing to do to protect the woman that he loves. So let's start things off with Silver. And so now he is out trying to enact Flint's plan. And through this, he is really besieged on all sides with the different options and choices that he has laid before him. Now, he, of course, is not really supportive of what Flint is choosing. This whole deal is not really something that he can completely agree with. And we really get to see that when he has that first conversation with Madi. And that was a huge scene. There was really a lot going on with that. One, we are seeing, of course, that Silver's not totally in agreement with Flint. But we also get to see a lot of Madi's intelligence and observation. We're hearing of the plan, able to weigh all sides of it and kind of come to agreement with Flint. Much to Silver's surprise. I love his idea of I can't believe that the two of you are thinking alike. But it's smart because as Madi sees, she is really aware of the slave revolt, and she can see that the pirates at this stage cannot battle a three-sided war. They can't be battling the British on one side and the slaves on the other. It's just, it would spread them apart too much. So if you can take care of the British, even at such a high price of the cash, it would allow at least a focus onto the other issue of dealing with the slaves, perhaps trying to find some accord and some balance with them, which, to Madi's offering may in fact dealing with the other voice that Silver is dealing with, Billy. That perhaps because of the choices that Billy made up at the Underhill estate, that he may have to be sacrificed in order for some possible peace to happen with Julius and the rest of the slave army. Now that does not necessarily mean killing him, as Madi points out. It is just getting him off of the island. But that, of course, presents a whole lot of other complications because a lot of the pirates are following Billy. And how many could you afford to lose? So there's weighing of these options here. But the difficulty in these choices is not lost on Madi. And I think that's one of the other really important parts of this conversation that they have, is really showing that emotional connection they have. One, where Madi says, I can see this is difficult for you. I want you to know that I am not unsympathetic, that I'm not uncompassionate, that I can't see how hard this is for you. But the same way, that sort of opens the door between what may end up being some of the possibilities going forward here is when Silver says to her back is, well, if this all does fall apart, would I be enough for you? And that's where Silver's focus is. However important this whole revolution is, and being the pirate king and being the leader of Nassau and that whole free shtick going down, he is not willing to trade that for Madi, and he'd be willing to give that up in order just for Madi. So would she be willing to do the same for him? What would you be willing to sacrifice, and what are you not willing to sacrifice? So that scene, I think, really important, showing the one side, the one pull direction that Silver is getting, but also showing a lot of the strength of Madi and how much not only is she supportive of Silver, but also strong enough to be making decisions regardless of whatever direction things are going, of what is the right choice, considering everything that they have going forward. Now, on the other side of that, we have Billy pulling on Silver, and that last scene with him after he leaves and they're trying to get everything together, and sort of he reveals to Billy that I know you're trying to manipulate me. I mean, and that's all that Billy has, is how much of a wedge can he put in between Flint and Silver. And the fact that they were friends for the longest time. They really did have that connection. But Silver can see that Billy is manipulating him. That Billy is just like Flint in his own particular way, manipulating the forces around. The difference here, of course, is that, as Billy says, is he would much rather have Silver with him than just to take him out. Billy knows that he could potentially kill Silver. He could maybe not kill him, but certainly push him off to the side, take the cash, and make his own choices. But he doesn't want to do that. Well, I think he thinks that he can. As we find out later on, of course, he doesn't have quite the power over the men that he thinks that he does. And so these are kind of the two conflicts that are going on with Silver throughout this episode. And how is it solved? By Israel hands in just a beautiful, wonderfully straightforward shot. I mean, the moments where you kind of have Silver finally getting to himself, where he just collapses in and just has that, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. He's got all these choices and these possibilities of which direction he could go, and his hands isn't leaving. He kind of opens up his soul and just, I don't know which direction to go, and which hands just slaps him right in the face. Get it together, man! Classic, that doesn't really work. When you slap someone, it pisses them off. I've never seen that kind of get somebody, straightened out in the head. I've never seen it happen. But on film, it looks beautiful, and it was really perfect. And I loved how Israel proposed it. That look of worry is not useful in a kingdom such as this. It was perfect. Make up your mind. Whatever it is. He doesn't care what it is. Stay, go with Flint, go with Billy, go with Madi, go, stay, doesn't matter. Just make a choice. Because people do not like uncertainty. And if their leadership is showing uncertainty, then they're not going to follow you. Whereas if you are certain, people will follow you. And that's sort of what Billy runs into at the very end. And another just wonderful, wonderful scene. And I love how it's done by nondescript pirate guy number 12. Who sort of lays it all out for Billy at the very end. I just thought that was perfect because you're not sure what's going on. And of course they are playing it like they're about to ambush Flint and Eleanor. The woman just won't fucking die. It's unnatural. Sorry, I love that line from Silver. But it was just a perfect kind of moment of you're expecting that one thing, and then as the pirate is going through his whole speech, you start to hear, no, this isn't right. No, this is twisty. No, we get something else. So I thought that was sort of a beautiful way to do that reveal, to really build up in one direction and then start to bring our curiosities and our questioning as where is this random guy discussing things going? And then we find out, of course, that Billy is being sacrificed for the greater good, though not completely. And I like that with Silver, choosing that he doesn't have to kill Billy. He just has to really get him out of the way and maybe teach him a lesson to not cross paths. Meanwhile, the other side of the story this week, of course, dealing with Woods. As everything comes down to it, Woods being really the linchpin in this entire plan. And it starts out, Woods is dedicated. He is not going to just turn things around. He doesn't want to even listen to Mrs. Hudson when she first comes on board, saying, and that had to be a frightening walk for her down through Nassau with all the pirates. But not even letting really Mrs. Hudson even finish telling the tale instead of coming right in. It's not until the warning shots are being shot across the bow. Nice of Eleanor to use Flint that way, get his experience on a positive end. But not until those warning shots not only get fired, but start to get pretty close. that Woods is willing to listen for a moment to turn things around, though not giving up. And I've got to say, in many ways, the Woods scenes in this, to me, were kind of the weakest. And just from a couple of different points. I mean, I understand where Woods is coming from. I mean, his whole motivation and storytelling and decision-making, I get that. But the actual execution of it kind of bothered me. I mean, one, if Mrs. Hudson is coming down to speak with Woods just before they show up in Havana, she came from outside. She could have easily been up on the deck and would have seen, in the amount of kind of that conversation, walking onto the deck and seeing Havana right there, you would have still seen that before. Ships don't move quite that fast. So that was kind of a little meh. Also, yes, I know Mrs. Hudson was spying for the Spanish in order to try and make sure that the cash and everything was delivered, but they don't need to know what her contact is, whether she contacted him or not. That's totally irrelevant. Woods is the governor. He's got his flag, as he says. I'm flying the flag. They know exactly who I am. Whether or not Mrs. Hudson can make a contact in with her Spanish intelligence guy, completely irrelevant. And then the scene with the governor, that the governor also had a younger brother, and that younger brother was killed on the Spanish ship that was taken out and executed by everyone, by Woodes Rogers, because his younger brother was killed on the other ship. I mean, that's a stretch. I mean, in some ways you're kind of like, irony's getting you. On the other hand, really, it wasn't necessary. I don't think that didn't accomplish anything because, of course, it didn't stop anything. But why would the Spanish even help Woods, even if it is the cash? They could kill Woods, go out, wipe out Nassau, take the cash or not, burn everything to the ground, and whether or not Woods is there would make absolutely no difference. From a tactical standpoint, they could leave the fort, they could take the fort, they could whatever. That means absolutely nothing. So I get this brings in the Spanish, it changes the stakes, it makes everything big at the end. There's all of these issues to deal with. But why he involves the Spanish and what the Spanish get to gain from helping Woods and not just taking him and doing all of that anyway, that I don't understand. And I love at the end how that it's Jack showing up just to get back in the fight. That sort of reveals back to Flint the reality of what I think all of us knew. This plan revolved around Woods cooperating. Whatever Eleanor promised, whatever negotiation that she wanted to give, she didn't have the strength, she didn't have the power to make that deal. Not without approving with Woods. And that's what Jack knew from the moment seeing him. After the killing of Teach, after the whole stuff that was done with the rest of the crew, Jack understands that Woods will do nothing to bend knee. He will do everything to protect his wife, but there is no way that he is going to make a deal with pirates anymore. And so, of course, we end it because we have the Spanish fleet coming in, at least 12 ships, 1,000 men, that the pirates they got nothing. They got nothing to defend against that. No ships to do it, not nearly enough men. Even with the slave army, you're not going to have the type of coordination that the Spanish are going to have. And the Spanish really, all they need to do is just burn the city down. Whether or not they even get the jewels would be secondary, though I would assume if they came all that way, they wouldn't give that up. So all of those plans didn't really mean anything. All of the back and forth was a promise, was a ghost promise. It wasn't ever going to happen, and Jack was the only one that really understood that. But he wasn't on the island, so now everybody else is going to learn. They're going to learn real fast. All right, just a couple of quick things. One, I think it's interesting that Woods is the only other person that really can see the possibilities of Flint's rebellion the same way that Flint does. You know, Flint is doing all of this to be big enough to hopefully show people that England can be fought, can be beaten back, can be defeated, and sort of spark a revolution across the new world. And that's exactly what Woods is afraid could happen. and what he brings up with the Spanish governor is they could be heading to Havana next. So I just think it's interesting that really of these two parties, they both see the possibilities of what this actual war could mean, and are obviously fighting in different directions. Oh, great seeing Israel hands up against Billy there. I mean, that fight was quick. It didn't have to last that long, but very big, very brutal. Seeing two large men swinging their weapons around, I thought was just really well done. It was a nice fight this week. And finally, the opening shot of this whole episode where we have Silver moving through the darkness of the tunnel and then bursting out into the light, I think is very allegorical for his journey in this episode. Moving through the darkness, through the challenges, until finally stepping into the light of his own choices of to where he's going to be next. Sort of an evolution thing. Anyway, I just thought it was quite appropriate and beautifully shot. Just looked marvelous. All right, now before we wrap things up, I just want to give a big old rest in peace to Mr. Bill Paxton, who passed away this past weekend. Bill was ever present as I was growing up, playing wonderful roles as the older brother Chet in Weird Science, to one of the punks in the original Terminator, to, of course, Hudson in Aliens, was in Twister, was in Apollo 13, and, of course, really most recently, well, many shows most recently, but for me, close to my heart, as Agent John Garrett in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. way back in Season 1. So it was just really sad to hear that news. Was always great to see him, was always very inspiring, was always funny on screen, and just brought an extra bit of energy to everything that he did. So, Bill, we are going to miss you. Thank you for everything that you have done.
You stewed, buttwad! Freeze.
Chad!
Where's my brother?
Hey, my turn.
Me.
Come on. Hey, Ripley, don't worry. Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
That wasn't funny, man. Phil, look, it's been a rough day. I get it. But you need to take a second and... Damn it.
All right, so let's wrap things up then, because next week we are going to have the Spanish invading Nassau. That is not going to be good for our crew, and I get the feeling it's going to have to be a quick escape. That means we've got to get all of our people. We got to get Flint, we got to get Silver, we got to get Billy, we got Maddie, and as many people as we can save probably off the island, because they are not going to stand against that many ships and that many Spanish troops. So how that's going to fall out, we're going to have to wait until next week. So if you did enjoy this review, please hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, throw those down in the section below. Now, this is episode 5, so we've got 5 more, and still many things that could be happening. We've got the Spanish coming in. How's that going to work out? We still have Thomas potentially still alive. Will Flint be able to reconnect with him? And as it all falls apart, will Maddie just be happy with Silver? Could the two of them just have a bit of peace off on the Maroon Island and make a life for themselves? So a lot of different ways this could go. We still don't know how it's going to end, and we are going to have to wait 5 more episodes to check that out. So if you have any thoughts on what it is, throw those down in the comment section below. We'll see if we can figure out where this is going. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. But if you don't want to miss any of these reviews, if you like this and you aren't a subscriber, and if you like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that comes back in the beginning of April, but we also do Walking Dead and Legion. You can catch all those reviews by being a subscriber, and you can do that by hitting my little face right there. That's a subscription button. And what I'll do is throw up our latest review for The Walking Dead right over here. So, that's going to be it for me. I am D, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.